Caring for a loved one with dementia can often feel like navigating a storm. The unpredictable behaviors, the emotional toll, the constant worry, it can leave you feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. But what if you had the tools to find your calm in all the chaos? Today, we're exploring practical, stress reducing strategies specifically designed for dementia caregivers. From mindful moments to building a supportive network, join us as we chart a course toward a more peaceful and manageable caregiving journey. Welcome back, Fading Memories listeners. I always appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time every week, and I always strive to make it well worth your listen. And I think today is no exception. With me is Debbie Compton. She is a three-time caregiver for parents with different forms of dementia. She is a certified caregiving consultant and advocate, and she's also, like me, an educator for the Alzheimer's Association, a speaker, and she is the author of 10 different books. I'm still working on my first one. So, the latest book is called The Caregiver's Advocate, which is an international bestseller. And if that's not enough, she also founded the Purple Vine, whose mission it is to empower caregivers to reduce stress, block burnout, and laugh again. So, Debbie, thanks for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I always enjoy talking to you, Jennifer.
Well, thank you. So, we are discussing going from chaos to calm, and we are in the middle of Thanksgiving week recording this. You had to shoo the grandkids and the hubby out of the house, so you are absolutely, completely familiar with chaos. So, where should we start? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with caregiving with different parents with different forms of dementia? That sounds chaotic enough.
Definitely was. There's not a lot of peace and calm involved in that process. And it was an interesting journey. And it's so crazy because at the beginning, I just didn't know enough even about the diseases to understand what I was facing. I just
Mm-hmm.
thought, yeah, it's okay, we got it, and I'm thinking it's like basically any other disease, and you know, it's okay. And that's just really not true. Dementia is an entity in itself, and it affects every part of the body, as you know, because it hits the brain, which is our central nervous system. And so you're not only dealing with memory issues, which are the main thing that people think of. It's like, oh, they just, can't remember. Well, they can't remember how to get dressed, how to bathe, how to put their clothes on, how to anything. You eventually lose all of that, reading and everything. So it was quite a journey. It was definitely a learning experience. And so,
I always, I
yeah.
always like to say caregivers should get honorary PhDs because anybody who is dedicated to the best care for their loved one is kind of forced to learn a lot, whether they want to or not. And you made a comment about, you at the beginning, you thought, oh, we can handle this. You made some adjustments. And that's kind of one of the things I advocate people to understand is, yeah, in the beginning, you think you can handle it. You put up a big
Yeah.
calendar or a whiteboard or whatever it is, whatever new tool that helps them, with the
Hmm.
current level of independence. And, the next thing you know, you're up to your eyebrows in, chaos, confusion, and
Hmm.
holy crap, what do I do next? So
Yes.
maybe we should start with um like learning how to ask for help, learning how to get help because you cannot do this alone. I know people hear that all the time, and I know you're out there thinking you can.
Well, you know what? I think we were both there too, though. And, I know that I thought that I could. And I didn't even identify as a caregiver. I just thought I was a daughter helping out her parents. And I'm just doing what they need. And so the word caregiver, when people would talk about that, didn't really even resonate with me. And it's funny because you do feel like I got this. And there's a certain amount of pride involved in that I can do this and independence, and all the other things. And plus, in my case, I was in upper middle management. I was used to directing tons and tons and tons of people. So what's three?
Yeah.
Guess what? Three was a lot harder than all those others.
It's interesting you say because I didn't identify as a caregiver either. My dad passed away in March of 2017. I, was determined to give my mom the best quality of life, the most joy, not prolong her life unnecessarily with Alzheimer's. And that didn't seem too hefty a goal, but it became real. I was really aware very quickly that I had no idea what to do. She and I say this a lot, we flunked all of the standard advice with flying colors and fireworks, and I mean, reminiscence therapy, music therapy, we flunked it all. And I don't know if it's because she was further along than I thought. I was trying too hard, putting pressure on both of us that caused problems. Not really sure why we were so good at flunking those things. But that's when I went looking for advice, wisdom, and hope. Did not find what I
Mm-hmm.
needed. Back in
Mm-hmm.
2017, there were far fewer books,
Mm-hmm.
and there was only one podcast, which wasn't my cup of tea, which is how Fading Memories became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until late 2017 when I went to my first Alzheimer's Association support group where the facilitator said, it doesn't matter if your loved one lives in their own home, lives with you, lives in memory care. If you are doing that, you are a caregiver. And I was like, oh, and you
Mm-hmm.
said you were a middle manager. So what I'm trying to speak on is I'm trying to help corporations learn the benefits to the business about investing in their family caregivers
Mm-hmm.
because 73% of their employees have some sort of caregiving responsibility. But a lot of us, like you and I, don't identify as a caregiver or didn't. And
Right.
so it's kind of hard to reach everybody. So it's like, dear Lord, there's still
Right.
a lot of education for us to be doing.
Absolutely. And as the baby boomers age, there's more and more and more caregivers needed every day because the number one risk factor for Alzheimer's is old age. And
Yep.
we're living longer. So our odds go up, and it's absolutely true. You're speaking to the choir here, and we need more education, more information. And that's the same reason that I founded the Purple Vine, because when Dad started having hallucinations, I started researching everywhere because I'd never been around anyone who had hallucinations. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to handle it. I had no clue. And the only thing I could find online was don't argue with him. Okay, well, that's a good starting point, but that I needed so much more. And so after I learned all the stuff and after I got my certifications and my training and had all those aha moments of, wow, that would have been helpful to know, um, that's why I founded the Purple Vine, because I don't want people to struggle like I did. I don't want them to go through all of this. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I give them the answers and I tell them up front and I try to prepare them for it to say, well, you may not be at this right now, but it could very well be coming. And so the more you can learn up front, the smoother your journey will be. And that's
Oh,
my whole goal. Just let them have a smoother journey than we had. Because I
oh, for
flunked a
sure.
lot too.
Fortunately, I landed on taking my mom to the park, the pool, various places where she could just watch kids. She was very happy doing that. And it
Hmm.
allowed me, a little time to just to be with her, but to also kind of relax or respond to emails on my phone. I did start getting better at that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just just deal with things, and just being outside was really
Yeah.
beneficial. I had kind
It's
of
great
planned
for
on
both
taking,
of you.
oh yeah, she kind of had
Yeah.
like just a hint more spark behind the eyes when we got back
Mm-hmm.
from, an hour or so at the park. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it took a lot of spectacular failures, some not fights, but some, you know, everybody said to do things like simplify the hobbies they enjoyed. Well, my mom enjoyed lots of creative hobbies, and I actually had art therapists who gave me advice, along with giving my listeners advice. And I tried
Mm-hmm.
them, like leaf rubbings. Like, how hard is that? Well, duh.
It's
If
a
you
lot
can't
harder than you
see,
think.
it is a little harder, but if you can't see the leaf, what the heck? Why are you rubbing this thing on this piece of paper? And she always
Right.
commented, I'm afraid of doing it wrong. Oh, that used to make me
Mm.
crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't
Well,
it
the
wasn't
thing about
necessarily her
that too,
personality. Go ahead,
the
sorry.
the thing, no, 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 you're fine. The thing about that is that I have a real problem with people saying this is what you do. Well, you know what? I cared for three of my loved ones. What worked for dad wouldn't work for mom. What worked for mom wouldn't work for my mother-in-law. They're different people. They were different before they got the disease. They're definitely different after they get the disease. And so there's no one size fits all. You
Hmm.
have to, and that's why the consultations that I do are so important because people call and then they can tell me, we can chat over Zoom and they tell me their exact needs and what's going on. And we dig deeper to find out what's happening. And then I help them come up with solutions that match their need because again, it's not a one size fits all. And even in the first book that I wrote, Caregiving: How to Hold On While Letting Go, I tell the approach that I took, that my older brother took, that my sister took, that my younger brother took. That's four different viewpoints on some of the topics in here because we had different relationships also, which factor in there. I couldn't say certain things to my dad because I was his daughter. He was old school in that he was very grew up in a very male dominated time, and the men go out to work and the women stay home, and all those stereotypes going on, right? So there were
Hmm.
certain things that he was not going to listen to me when I said. But my brother could say, "Dad, you take a bath today or I'm going to throw you in the bathtub." And so dad would be like, "Okay." And off he goes. But I beg and try and coax and the whole bit, and it's nope, not doing it.
Spectacular failure.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a team. It takes a team to support someone with Alzheimer's. And that's why, as you alluded to earlier about forming a support team, one thing that I love to tell caregivers to do, because people ask us all the time if there's anything that they can do to help, right?
Hmm.
And what do we always say? Fine, it's okay.
Sure. I'll
I
let you
got it.
know. Yeah.
I'll get back to you. We won't. We're lying. It's not going to happen. And so what I tell people to do is take out an index card and write down things that would be nice if someone did for you. Doesn't even have to be related to caregiving. What if they mowed the yard? What if they did some laundry, took the dog for a walk? Whatever it is, write those things down on an index card and then keep it with you, whether it's in your purse, your back pocket, or whatever. And when somebody approaches you and says, "Hey, what can I do? I wish there was something I could do to help," whip out that index card and say, "Is there anything on this list that you would like to do?" So, see, I'm not asking you to do something you're uncomfortable with. I'm not asking you to do a specific task that you don't want to do. I'm saying, look at this selection here. Is there anything here that you would be willing to do? So it's a lot less aggressive, I guess, and it's not pushy. It's not putting people in a spot, and it works.
I
So,
like that it's kind of a twist on what I tell people to do. Is I tell people write down everything you need to do today on a piece of paper. Then add
mhm.
to it everything you need to do this week. If it takes you a week to write that down, all the different tasks that get done through the week, like getting your clothes in the dryer before running the dryer cycle. I was talking about that out while we were
Good tip.
offline. And then make a list of everything. So you got the week, make a list of everything that needs to get done on a monthly basis, and then throw in the random things like doctor's appointments. And now you see all of the things you need to do just to maintain the two of you, your household, and life in general. It's like amazing how much crap needs to be done every day. Then
Yes,
there's
it
the
is.
second thing is to make a list of everybody you know. They don't have to be local, they don't have to be family. And then this is kind of where my mind differs from yours. And so I think people should contemplate which one would work better for them. But next to somebody's name, like you said, you were in middle management, so I think you and I would probably have some different skills. Write down what you think Debbie would be good at, what Jennifer would be good at. Because please don't ask Jennifer to talk to people at the bank, the insurance company, Medicare. That stresses me out just thinking about it. I hate it,
Yeah,
don't want to do it. If you
right.
really need it, I will do my best, but dear God, please don't ask. But if you need
Hmm.
somebody to walk the dog, I can usually get my clothes in the dryer and dry. And you guys are gonna have to go on my Instagram to find that story. You can, I'm an excellent baker. I'm a very good cook. If you need meals, I can, provide you with some frozen meals that you dump in the slow cooker.
Hmm.
That would be great. And I can fit
Right.
that into my pretty much into my normal schedule. So when I come to you and say,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, Debbie, so I can't believe you've got a third parent to take care of. Is there anything I could do to help?" Bam, you have an answer. You're
Hmm.
like, "Jen, could you like throw a meal and the crock pot meal together for me every week?" And I'd be like, "You got it. I'll throw in some cookies while we're at it."
That's awesome. Yeah. That's
But
that's perfect.
if you give them a list of like, "Oh my gosh, these are the things that I'm really struggling with," that might work too. So now you guys got two different ways of getting help that are pretty simple. So
Hmm.
that's a great start,
Hmm.
because a lot of places, the Alzheimer's Association stuff, like reach out here, call this, yeah, everybody's
Yeah.
overwhelmed, not enough
Right.
staff. This is a definite DIY. You're gonna have to put together your own care team, and I kind of think it's a little bit better if it's people that are close to you and personal. They know you
Yes.
better, they know your loved one better. So,
Yes.
so how
I
do we
agree.
handle those days when? So I guess I'll tell a quick story. My mom's care home kept thinking that she was having UTIs. I would take her to the doctor. That was a struggle enough to get a urine
Hmm.
sample to discover no, she didn't have a UTI. She kept having small amounts of blood in her urine, and I kept taking her to the doctor. This one particular nice late spring day, I was like, might have been early fall. It was a perfect day to go out with my cycling club. I peeled off a little early because I'm like, you know what? I don't have any photography clients. I don't have any podcast recordings. I'm gonna get home, shower, dress, have some quick food, and I'm gonna get some stuff done today. Don't ever verbalize that, even in your own head. The universe will fix it for you. So it was about 11, between 11:45 and 11:50. Doctor's office calls and says, "Well, the doctor would like you to bring in your mom." "Oh, really? Why?" To which I got, you could almost see the blinking, like, "Why am I being questioned?" kind of expression. And they're like, "Well, the doctor, da da da." Turned out they wanted to schedule an ultrasound, which, just do it. Like, just schedule the damn ultrasound. You don't need to see her. So I explained to the gal on the phone. I said, "Well, unfortunately, to go get my mother and bring her back to you guys," I said, "that's about an hour plus you." And I said, "No, I don't have time for that. I can't make that happen today." And you could almost hear the disapproval, the, "Oh my God, I can't believe what a horrible person." Like, she was shocked. You could hear it in her voice, which did not sit too well with me.
Hmm.
Long story short, I had to call, I think I made 8 phone calls in 3 hours, to the point where at 51 years old, I lost my beep. I knew in my head the person that I was screaming at was not the one that was totally responsible for all the problems. But I was so frustrated and so angry and felt so disrespected that I could not bring myself back into an intellectual, logical state of mind to stop screaming at the person on the phone. My neighbors could hear me because the windows were open. It was bad.
No. Oh
Oh,
no.
and I've mellowed with age. I used to be like that so bad when I was in my 20s. I just turned 58. I don't do that anymore. It doesn't get anybody anywhere. You're just stressed out. Your blood pressure is up. You're sweating. You're just all bad. Don't do that.
Hmm.
But how
Hmm.
do we handle situations where other people are trying to dictate what we need to do for our loved one, and they just don't seem to understand that you might actually have other things that need to actually happen.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point, and that's one that we cover in the book that you alluded to, The Caregiver's Advocate. We talk about setting boundaries and how to establish those boundaries and let people know, what is acceptable and what's not. Because, like you said, you can't just let them overrun. And that's what Karen Shooter is an educator, and she's got several other titles behind her name too. But anyway, she wrote about promoting healthy boundaries to thrive, which is true because if you don't set those boundaries, you get totally overrun. And then you have folks also that say, well, I'm a solo caregiver. I don't have time to take care of myself. because I kind of felt a little bit of that myself when I was taking care of the three of them. It's like self-care felt selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I can't take any time to me. That's not good. That's not right. That's not fair. I got to take care of them and I have to handle their situation and their needs. Well, then if you can stop and look back, how well are you actually taking care of them if you're not taking care of yourself? Because
That
you're
goes.
frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're
Well,
unhappy.
it goes to the statistic that 50% of caregivers end up in the hospital or deceased before the person they're
Hmm.
caring for. And if you're 65 or older, that statistic is worse. I don't know what the actual number is. And I'm just going to
Hmm.
guess that if you are caring for three people and not taking care of yourself, you're probably at a higher percentage of hospitalization or death before your loved one.
Hmm.
So, what's
Hmm.
going to happen with them? I mean, you had three of them. That's hard enough to plan for. What's going to happen, like with me and my mom, if I drop dead from screaming at this person at the doctor's office?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's where you have to reframe it is you have to go, okay, I can't pour from an empty cup. I can't help them if I've given away everything that I possibly have. So you have to pour into yourself just a little bit to be able to have something to go ahead and take care of them. And and again, when people say, "Well, I can't, I don't have time." Well, I thought that too. Been there too. I experienced caregiver burnout when I didn't even know what it was, didn't know it was a thing, but it was because I let myself get to a point of complete and total mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. It's when you are completely wiped out. You feel like I cannot take another step. It's been X amount of days and I've only had a couple of hours of sleep each night. And the loop de loop. One of them's in the loop de loop, constantly repeating, asking the same questions over and over and over, and you're answering again and again and again all day long. And it's just all the things that just compile. And when you feel like, you know, nobody wants to help me, well, sometimes it's not that they don't want to, depends on the priorities. Also, I ran into that. Well, we've got, the kids have a ball game. Oh, come on, I had a life. I don't
Yeah,
now, but I had one and I remember what it was like and I want some of that again. So, anyway, when you are all by yourself and when you are a caregiver by yourself, I'd like to tell you just a couple of things that you can still do to take care of yourself, if that's okay.
definitely.
Okay, so number one is called visual imagery. Now, when I first started doing this, didn't know what it was called. Didn't hear about it. I mean, a lot of this, God got me through. I'm telling you. It was if not for him, I wouldn't have made it. And so visual imagery, I would literally go in the bathroom and lock the door so that I could make sure nobody's coming in and then just sit down and start to imagine the beach because the beach is my happy place. Go to wherever your happy place is. If it's the mountains, if it's beside a stream, wherever it is, go to that place in your mind and just close your eyes and go there. Hear the sounds that you would hear if you're in that place. Feel the temperature, feel the sun on your face. Just take everything in. Feel the sand between your toes. Immerse yourself in your mind because here's the trick your mind doesn't know that it's not real. Your mind will take in all that calming and all that peace, and you can actually lower your blood pressure. You can lower your stress levels right away, drop your anxiety, all by just taking a couple of minutes, 2 minutes to yourself to mentally go to another place that's relaxing and peaceful and calm. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I was
It's,
wondering, would it make it easier or be more beneficial if you like I live in a house that was built in 1988. I got a heat lamp in one of the bathrooms, so I could turn on the heat lamp. That thing gets hot. and,
yeah,
and maybe
yeah.
have like a tray of sand and um
Hmm.
sea glass, and then you can run your fingers through the sand. I mean, you could run your toes through it
It
too, but
would.
you might have to clean up the
Yeah,
floor if you do that.
yeah.
Okay, because it's like
Yes,
I
plan
have a hard
ahead.
time shutting off my brain. Like I either listen to sleep podcasts at night or God forbid I
Mhm.
actually listen to true crime podcasts. which
No.
explains why I'm the way I am, right? Um, it's actually the modulated tones of like I
Yeah.
like at bedtime I like the 2020 and the 48 hours, not the I love the independent true crime podcast. I actually listen to those. So don't
Hmm.
come at me for that, but yeah, it's that professional voice.
Yeah.
Voice actor kind of.
Monotone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's not too
calming.
monotone. Yeah, I kind of discovered that, like, why do I always fall asleep in front of the TV? I didn't feel sleepy. And then you
Hmm.
wake up and you get up and you go to bed and you're laying there like staring at the ceiling in the dark and it's like this is
Hmm.
ridiculous. So I've been listening
Hmm.
to podcasts at bedtime for years. And
Hmm.
I've had people tell me, "Well, you just need to learn how to shut your brain off." And it's like it's not like I'm worrying about things. It's like
Yeah.
I'm going over my to-do list or what did I do today or what might I want for breakfast. It's like it just doesn't stop. And I don't
I've
think it
been
ever
there
will.
too. Yeah. And I created some visual recordings on that because it's hard for some people to focus on that, especially if you have noise going on in the other room. And so you can put in earbuds, put on a headset or whatever, and listen to that visual image. It's guided visual imagery where I tell you, you're walking into the forest and notice the beautiful, the leaves, and you hear the rustling and the gentle wind, all this kind of stuff. So it takes you there if you can't go there yourself. So that really supports the people.
I would think nature sounds or ocean
Hmm.
sounds, depending on where you
Hmm.
like to go, along with like the external, like the heat lamp and the dish of sand, would
Hmm.
help you get to that place. And then maybe you
Hmm.
might have to start with, your guided visual imagery, like you said. So that's a really good idea.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to contemplate those at bedtime. Maybe I can stop listening to true crime.
Yeah. 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 I don't know how good that is,
It's
but
what's
but
really
oh
funny
well.
is it only takes about 5 minutes, but the sleep podcast is designed specifically to give
Hmm.
your brain a place to park. Like it's here's your little
Hmm.
nest. You can go here and just park, and it's
Yeah.
it works, but it's not the same as those TV voices. And
That's
it takes
funny.
longer to go to sleep with the sleep podcast than it does with the murder podcast. So go
How
figure.
funny. We're all different. That's what I was
Yep.
saying. We're
Yep.
all different.
It,
So it takes a lot of different ways. And another thing that caregivers can do is breathing techniques. There's a number of different breathing techniques, but you can stop in the middle of whatever. And it's not just caregivers, it's people at work, it's nurses on the job, it's whatever, wherever you're at. Deep breathing helps get that oxygen into the brain so that you can think more clearly. When you're stressed, you're reducing the oxygen in the brain. So clear thoughts and creative ideas don't come to you
mm-mm.
because you don't have enough oxygen. So if you stop and learn some different breathing techniques, whether it's the box breathing, which is 4 in, hold for 4, out for 4, and hold it for 4 seconds, is what you're doing on those. That helps you as well. And it helps just bring the calm again and brings the peace as you're inputting the oxygen. And it's important to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And so, as you're doing any breathing exercise too, you remind yourself that you're breathing in peace and calm and tranquility, and you're blowing out tension and stress and negativity. And again, your mind is just so powerful that you can use that to calm yourself down and think of a good solution.
One thing that I really like doing, I really just need to like give up nighttime hobbies like TV and reading, and so I have more time for things like evening stretches that are designed to calm your body down and
Yeah.
prepare you for sleep. I have
Hmm.
learned if I'm going to do these 10, 20, 30-minute bedtime stretches, 30-minute stretches sounds like an eternally long time. It is so not when you're into it. But I did a 30-minute stretch once and then had to take off my clothes and brush my teeth, wash my face. And then I was like, well, now I've kind of like wound myself back up, not 100%, but
Yeah.
so now I brush my teeth, wash my face, turn down the bed,
Right.
and I do these stretches and then get in bed and don't always have to listen to this to the murder
There,
podcast.
there you
um,
go. There you go.
so
And it
if you
works.
if
There's
you
a
can,
lot of things that work.
yeah. So I get mine through the Peloton app. I know not everybody is a cult of Peloton member, but I'm sure there's plenty of places to get like wind down evening type stretches, pre bedtime stretches. I'm sure Google searches will help you find all those. But yeah, they're just even a 5 minute full body stretch doesn't even have to be designed to wind you down. Just it takes the kinks out. And once you get some of those kinks out, you feel a little better and I think you probably get a little
Mhm.
more oxygen to your brain. So you
You
could also
do.
give that a try.
You do. And you get oxygen in those muscles too as you're
Mm-hmm.
stretching those. So it helps everything to just calm down, function better. Like you said, releases the pain because we hold pain a lot of times in our shoulders, tension.
Yeah.
And so just scrunching up your shoulders as tight as you can and squeezing tight and then letting it go and relax can also just help relieve that tension, help it to calm down.
Yeah. If you have a tendency to do that, scrunch your shoulders up. If you hold all your tension in your shoulders and your neck, ask yourself if your shoulders have become earrings. That's
When
like
they're
a
up so high
mental,
that they feel
yeah.
earrings.
Yeah. You can almost feel your earlobes with your shoulders. Yeah. It's because we do that. We don't realize, sometimes we're
Hmm.
concentrating. Next thing you know, it's like you're all tightened up. But yeah, you could do
Yeah.
5 minute full body stretch. And not only is it good mentally, but a lot of the frailty and things we get as we age is because the muscles get tight, especially. I don't know if this is especially for women, but it happens as we age because we sit too much. Is the hip flexors get
Hmm.
really tight, which makes it more difficult to walk and climb stairs. And now it also affects your balance, which now it makes you
Hmm.
a fall risk. So 5-10 minute full body stretch every day feels great, good for your mind. It's gonna
Hmm.
it's probably the best physical therapy that you could do for free at home.
Exactly.
It's like that is the one thing that I do probably 6 days a week at least. I'm really bad. I don't do it after my bike ride when I go out with the cycle club. I always say, okay, I'm going to go home and do a 20-minute stretch. And by the time I sit in the cafe and chat with the people and then get back in the car and drive home, and it's like, I'm going to do it later. I'll do a
Yeah,
bedtime stretch. And guess what happens?
it doesn't.
So,
But
what
you know what? You
other?
got
Oh,
out
go
and
ahead.
rode your bike, so good for you.
Yeah, and this group is really fast, so I feel like I'm always chasing them. So it's physically demanding. I have to be careful that I don't wreck myself and then I have to come home and like take a nap.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's a good mental challenge and a physical challenge. So yeah, with all the rain we've had lately, it's like I kind of miss my group. I'm like ready for
I
Mother Nature to
bet.
turn off the hose for at least a little bit. Not all
Pointed
winter.
our dir- Pointed
Yeah.
our direction.
Yeah, send it to Oklahoma. Northern California's
Yes.
had plenty in the last, almost 2 weeks. It's like, ugh, terrible.
Hmm.
So we've talked about how to calm ourselves down mentally and do some things nice for our physical bodies, setting boundaries. What else should we be considering? I mean, all these tips are great for everyday humans, but we're
Well,
talking to the
another thing is that
superhumans.
exactly. Well, when we superhumans become caregivers, we need to adjust our expectations. And that was a big one for me because being in business and having very high expectations, I initially carried that over into the caregiving world, which was a big mistake. And I had to learn to let go of perfectionism. It's okay if everything isn't perfect. Guess what? It's not going to be anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's not. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand and recognize and accept, myself included. It was very hard for me because I thought, no, no, no. Okay, well, you have a hard time with it, but I can do this. I can get it. We can make it here. And, I remember one particular day when I was taking my mom and my mother in law both to the doctor because I thought I'd save time and take them both. And neither one of them wanted to go. And so what I did, this part was ingenious. I went to my mother-in-law and I said, the appointment's really for mom, but she doesn't like to go. So can you act like it's for you? And she said, okay. And then I went to my mom and I said, hey, the appointment's really for Jean, but she doesn't want to go. So let's act like it's for you. Okay. And she said, oh, okay. So they were both super happy. So they were both very cooperative. So this part, the early part was fantastic to get them ready to go. Went perfect. Um, but, we ran into some issues. One that I got mom fully dressed and I left her in the bathroom finishing up and went to get my mother-in-law dressed and was working on her. And then we come out and mom's back in her pajamas. And I'm like, how did this happen? And then I realized, okay, I left the pajamas in there with her. She saw them and thought it was time to put her pajamas on. So she puts them back on because they don't know times and stuff. They've lost that ability. So it was that part was a learning experience for me. It's like, okay, don't be mad at mom. She did the best she knew how to do, be mad at myself. And don't even be mad at myself. Learn from it is the thing. So anyway, several other things happened. We finally get around. We actually make it to the doctor's appointment and we made it on time. I'm thrilled. I'm like, this is great. We made it on time. And then I glanced down and my mom's wearing two different colors of shoes. And I thought, oh my gosh, I blew it. I cannot believe this. And then I had to grab a hold of that thought and go, no, 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 I'm not accepting that. You know what? This is a victory. We all three got here on time
Yeah.
with our teeth, with our hair brushed, with our shoes on, and with our clothes on and hearing aids. That's a win. So what if her shoes don't match? Nobody cares. Nobody's going to notice. And they didn't notice. And then I thought, well, even if they do notice, I'm going to say, yeah, she's got another pair just like them at home.
Yeah, I got my mom
But,
to the dentist one time and I had to sit with her. She was pretty cooperative, but she needed I don't know, she always thought I was her best friend. So I guess she needed her best friend to sit there with her. That was always
mm,
fun because I couldn't go
mm,
across the street to the, independent coffee tea place and relax.
mm-hmm,
No, because getting
mm-hmm,
my mom to the dentist, I needed to relax afterwards. And I'm sitting there and it's like, that woman's got their shoes on the wrong feet. How did we get out of the
mm-hmm,
memory care residence into the car, out of the car into the dentist's office, which was on the second floor? So we had to go up the elevator. I'm like, how did she do that? It's just like, and then I thought, okay, well, how do I switch them for her
mm-hmm,
without offending her? And it was just like, this is just crazy. And I don't
mm-hmm,
remember. I'm not sure I switched. I might have bumped into her because she was laying on the dental chair, and I think I might have knocked the shoes off so I could put them back on. But it was like, oh,
mm-hmm.
this is just nobody ever said anything, and it was
No,
we want to do such a
no.
good job that those kind of things feel like we're not doing a good job. Like my mom got to the point where she did not comb her hair the way she used to. Instead of combing it away from her face, she'd comb it straight down, and she only recognized clothing that she'd had 25, 30 years prior, which were all too big. So between the no makeup and the hair looking funky and the big baggy clothes, she
Mm-hmm,
kind of looked like a homeless lady. She was clean, but
mm-hmm.
she did not look the way I knew she would want to look. And that was really hard because it
Right.
was like, I know she doesn't want to look this way, but I can't do anything to change this because if I try, it's going to make a fight. And that's worse.
Yeah.
And it was,
Yeah.
oh, that was so hard. It's still hard when I see pictures of her and it's like, it's like, ugh, her hair looked terrible. It's just, ugh.
It's just it's an acceptance thing. You just have to accept, you know what? That's the best we could do and it's okay. And and you come up with ways if there are ways to get around it. My mother-in-law's favorite color was purple and mine too. And so she liked changing clothes all the time, but she wouldn't change her whole outfit. She just changed part of it. And so she came out one day and she's wearing this, red and white checked shirt and she's got on blue pants and green socks. I mean, it was crazy. And then she puts on a vest on top that just doesn't match anything. And I'm just mortified. And it's the same way I'm thinking she wouldn't want people to see her like that because she was always very neat and clean and tidy. And so what I did was I bought her a whole new wardrobe of shades of purple. Since she loved purple, she could switch. top or bottom, and she still was in purple. So she matched.
That makes sense. You got like
Hmm.
denim, navy blue pants, denim, jeans, and then all
Hmm.
various shades of purple on top. And she didn't have a problem with, so like my mom would have been like, I don't
Mm-mm.
know whose clothes these are. It didn't matter if they were her favorite color.
Oh, no. No, my mother-in-law wasn't really as attached to clothes. Her thing was more, it had to have a high neck, it had to have long sleeves. We don't want to be vain here and we don't want to be showing any skin. And so that was really hard to buy her clothes because of her requirements. But then as she got older, she was always freezing all the time. So then it was easy. You get sweaters, different shades of sweaters and different patterns of sweaters and sweatpants because they're easy to pull up and pull down. And that's what she needed. She couldn't do buttons or snaps or anything like that.
What kind of clothing solutions did you have any issues with your dad in clothes? Because I
Hmm.
know clothing
Yeah, I
is always a
did.
trouble.
Yeah, he couldn't do the buttons. He always had worn button-down shirts and stuff. And with Parkinson's, his fingers got real stiff and he couldn't do the buttons anymore. So we bought him Western style snap shirts. And he loved those because my dad would never wear sweats. He wouldn't be caught dead in sweats. Just he was a businessman, didn't do that. And so we got him we did find some pants that were pull-up pants, but they had the fake, fly and everything on
Mm.
the front. So they looked like they were actually buttoning and stuff, but they weren't. And then had the Western style shirts with the snaps on them. And that worked real well for him.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
they're coming up with more fashion forward adaptive clothing,
they
which
are.
is yeah, which is nice. Yeah, my
Hmm.
struggle with my mom, and she went from a master bedroom closet that was 8 feet wide, double hung, plus
Mm,
the closet that was in my old childhood bedroom. So that was probably 6 feet, also double hung. That woman had like a whole small shops worth of old clothes. And I went through them one day at my dad's bequest, and, because that was overwhelming to me. And
hmm.
ugh, the best thing about that was she got really pissed off that quote, "Your sister stole all my clothes." And I was like, yes,
Oh,
I didn't
yay.
get blamed for that.
Hey.
But when she was in the memory care, she literally had the single door, double hung
Hmm.
closet. So we're talking maybe 3 feet of rack space.
Yeah.
And one fall, every time I went to visit, she was wearing the same 3/4 length sleeve sweater. And I'm like,
Mm,
honey, it is 90 degrees outside. What in the hell? I mean, even
mm,
inside, it wasn't that
hmm.
chilly. At least,
Yeah.
and I'm always cold. So I was pretty
Hmm.
sure that she was wearing it because it was familiar. And so I asked the staff, I'm like, are you having issues with her changing clothes? Oh, yeah, yeah. And your mama doesn't want to take a shower. Turned out they had switched her from morning showers to afternoon. It was only 2 to 3 times a week. Most older people don't need a shower every day
Correct.
unless they are wearing incontinence briefs, and then there might need to be a little more attention in that area. But
Hmm.
generally, it's actually not good for their skin to have a shower every day.
Right.
It's not actually necessarily for us either,
Right.
but we're talking about older people right now. And I had to tell them, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Mom was never an afternoon shower person. She could do chores, paint, and she might just wash her face, slap on a little bit more deodorant, and put on, fresh, quote, knock around the house clothes and shower the next morning. She was not an afternoon showering person. And so they switched her back to mornings, had less trouble, but the facilitator of the support group I was in said, you need to limit your mom's options. And I'm thinking, if I limit them anymore, the woman's gonna be parading around naked. Because I'm thinking
Yeah.
she went from racks and racks of clothes, and
Yeah.
so I finally said, "This is kind of stupid." Because the closet was pretty full, so this was, approaching fall, which, in California is still kind of, we go from like hot to nippy cold pretty quickly. And we were approaching that point, and I'm like, I'm just going to take all the summer things out of her closet. And we had less problems with her changing clothes when there was almost no options. And it was like,
Mhm.
and I kind of do the same thing. I don't have a huge closet, don't need a huge closet. I take all the summer tank tops and capris and all that stuff and put them in a container on the shelf. You know, they're there
Mhm.
if we have a heat
Mhm.
wave.
Mhm.
And same thing in the summer if I'm going to go someplace and I need a sweatshirt, you know, it's handy.
Mhm.
And I'm
I
not
do
looking
that
through.
too.
Yeah, I'm not looking through clothes. Like my office is really chilly. I'm not looking at a tank top that I really like that's really cute and looks cute on camera. Because there's no way in hell I'm wearing that because it's freezing. I'd be chattering my teeth at you. And that's when I realized, fewer options to us wasn't necessarily enough fewer options for mom. That was
Right.
kind of a breakthrough.
Yeah. It is. It is. And people do that with menus too. They'll hand a person with dementia the entire menu and say, "What would you like to eat?" That's overwhelming. You can't do that. I didn't hand mom. I sometimes I handed mom a menu if she wanted one. I would hand it to her, but I'd always say, "Do you want the last thing that you got here? I know you really love that chicken. Is that what you want again? Or do you want something different?" You're sparing her dignity. You're reminding her what it is she liked, and she feels like she has a choice because they're losing so much. We need to give them as many choices and decisions as they can handle without overwhelming.
And my mom got to the point where she would tell my dad, "Well, I'll just have what you're having," which was always baffling because my dad was a crappy eater. My mom did, they ate the same meals at home, but my mom did not like what my dad ate. My dad would have been super happy with a fried hamburger patty, mashed potatoes, and either corn or peas every night. Just the thought of that makes me want to hurt myself because I like
Mm,
variety. Yeah, it's not good for you either. But my
no,
mom
it's
liked,
not.
yeah, no, they're ugh. I've talked a lot about my mom drank 2 liters of Diet Coke. They ate bologna, American cheese, Wonder Bread, lots of beef, lots of potatoes. It was just like, you know, except for the Wonder Bread and the American cheese, and I've never really been a bologna person, but the rest of it's not that horrible. But when you
Mhm.
put all that stuff together, ugh, it just makes me feel yucky just thinking about eating that way. I could not do that. But yeah, so when she was telling my dad at restaurant, "I'll just have whatever you're having," I'm thinking, no, you won't. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
no, you
And
don't like that.
I think he usually said, "Oh, well, wouldn't would you rather?" I think he kind of gave her options, but he was a good example of not taking care of himself and not learning enough about the disease to learn how to navigate things with her so that he wasn't always frustrated because he got frustrated with her at the drop of
Hmm.
a dime. It was very terrible. So we're
Hmm.
getting a little late because there's so many good things to talk about with you. We should probably do like a part two. Do you
Yes, I
have
would love it.
one more really hot tip that people should take away from today that they can put into action immediately? And maybe we will come back for a part two.
Yeah, that would be great. Man, just one. That's hard. Okay, because I'll. How about if I say two, but I say it fast?
Okay.
Okay, so remember to take breaks. It's okay for you to take a short break, and there's a lot of different ways to make that happen. Even if you're a solo caregiver, I figured it out myself, so you can do that. Take breaks, and then the other thing is find some respite care options because there are things available. There's daily living centers. There are senior centers. There are even some nursing homes do respite care to allow a person to come and stay overnight, one night, a weekend, so that you can have a break, so that you can come back refreshed. And it's amazing. And so I would encourage people to do that.
It's important.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those do as I do, don't yeah, I mean,
Do
do
as
as
I
I
say,
say,
not as
don't
I
do as I
did.
did. Yeah, exactly.
And you had a second one?
Well, I rolled them both in there together.
Oh,
The first
okay.
one, yeah, I threw them in. I threw it in so fast you didn't even catch it. See, because the
Well,
first one
then,
was to take breaks, but then the second one was to get respite care too. So they're
okay.
kind of similar, but take breaks even through the day. you need to find just a couple of minutes. If they're taking a nap, it's not the time for you to do the dishes. If they're taking a nap and you're exhausted, take a short nap with them. That's what I mean by that.
So, real quick, when you say um, wh- finding respite care, where would you suggest people start with that? Because sometimes that can be a whole daunting task unto itself.
It can. I would Google daily living center, um, Google respite care for seniors, but a Google search is going to show you what's closer, what's around in your area. And there are ones that are free depending on the financial level of the individual.
That's beneficial. The other thing
Hmm.
that I did a whole episode on this, so I'm going to share it again with the listeners, is talk to the employees, the staff at, assisted living communities, memory care communities, senior
Hmm.
living care, because they're generally in touch with what's available in the area, and they can be one
Yeah.
of your best assets, and they're generally pretty willing
Yes.
to help. So, um,
And ask your doctor and ask your area center on aging. They can relay you to places as well. And Department of Human Services can also give you information and pointers.
Well, if that doesn't
Mhm.
give you enough places to start, I don't know what to tell you. This has been great. I do think we should do a part two.
Okay.
And so you guys will have to stay tuned for that. We'll just have to see when that happens.
Okay. I'd love it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful information with the audience. I'm going to link your books in the show notes like I always do, plus your website so people can read the books. I know you also have coloring books because I can see in the background you've got Color Me Calm. I like that. I'm a
Hmm.
big advocate on using creativity as meditation and self help, self
Hmm.
care. That's my self care. It's the only way I can meditate too, is to zen out on crafting. And we will just have to have Debbie back for another time.
I'd love it. And there's a journal on the end too. Right to
All right.
remember. Great
Ah,
tool to reduce stress for caregivers.
that is the one thing I have yet to try. I should do it. I always say that.
Hmm.
Well, thanks
It works.
again, and everybody stay tuned for a part two. Fading Memories is also available wherever you get your podcasts.